and welcome to the next episode of the Backstory on Marketing and AI. And if you haven't already done so, please go to prorelevant.com and sign up for more and all of these episodes and podcasts. And I am the author of the upcoming book, The AI Marketing Machine. And you can find out more information about this book at marketingmachine.prorelevant.com. Today I'm interviewing Tim Bradley of Pennant Video. So let me tell you a little bit about him. He is the co-founder of Pennant Video, and he champions the video marketing trifecta, which aims to provide strategic clarity and high-quality outputs in today's competitive landscape. Tim's expertise in leveraging AI for storytelling and enhancing customer engagement and conversion could bring a new dimension to anything that you're doing, and his insights would be invaluable for any of the work that his clients are doing. So, Tim, welcome to be here. I really appreciate it.
Hey, Guy, thanks so much. Really appreciate it too. And happy Friday as we're here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy Friday. Happy Good Friday. So tell us your backstory on AI and marketing.
Yeah, so I've been in the marketing space, video marketing specifically, for better part of 2 decades now, right? And as soon as the version one of ChatGPT came to the world, it was instant shake up to our system, right? Because obviously we're a lot of what we do starts in the words and the concepting and the researching and development of how we bring brand stories to the marketplace, right? So yeah, basically from that first first version to today, I've been pretty immersed, right? And trying to identify like what is the right set of like tools, frankly, right, to help our client partners tell the best stories they can for their audiences, right, to help them make better decisions at the end of the day. So that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. And storytelling is so critical. And video is a story. I mean, it is everything. You have the visual, you have the audio, you have music, you have the only thing missing is scent. And maybe someday we'll have that as well. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But when you're telling a story with video, you have to get it right. And using AI to support it can really make a difference. So tell us a little bit about Pennant Video. What is Pennant Video?
Yeah, so we're a video marketing agency. We work with a lot of mostly B2B brands, but in that sort of like safety, security, sustainability set of values space. And the video marketing trifecta, as you sort of teased, is a framework we've developed to help our marketing partners like best identify what types of videos to produce at what stages of the buyer's journey, right, of the proverbial marketing funnel. So we're squarely in the mid funnel, right? So we're really helping buyers in their sort of consideration phase of a brand and their tool or solution, right? And yeah, really just leveraging the power of story, the power of video to maximize our brand's impressions and engagement, and more so trust building and belief, right, in what they're doing day to day.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's always interesting. So I was a long time a B2B marketer and then B2C, and now I do probably more B2C and then a little bit of B2B to C. And one of the things that's definitely the case is consumer marketing is easy. It's one step. You kind of, I mean, there's certainly more about the emotional side, which is hard, and no question about that. But, there's not all of these different steps that you have to go through, like you do in a B2B marketplace. And I could see, exactly where your stuff would fit in. And so tell us how you're making that fit in for, some of your clients and maybe some practical use cases.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, you just said it right. Like a lot of the buyers in B2B are very savvy and technically sound minded, right? And just like there's degrees of complexity when it comes to the set of key stakeholders that need to invest in whatever the sort of like software or hardware solution, right? So you need to be very thoughtful and obviously recognize that sales cycles can take many months or even years, right? So using the power of story to like differentiate, demonstrate, and validate what your brand is all about is really key, right? So that's where the trifecta framework sort of helpful in declaring what videos work where. So I'll sort of preface with that. The trifecta is built around the intentions of expressing a brand's why, their what and their how and their who and their where, right? And that's sort of the ultimate phases of these of the journey while establishing how you're different from your competition. You're demonstrating your solution's value and you're validating via third party trust building, right? So customers, right? So the trifecta specifically is a set of tools, anthems to tell that why you exist, why your audience should care, explainers to demonstrate what it is you do and how you do it, and endorsements or customer stories, right? Really that final sort of trust builder and validation of your solutions offering, right? Obviously, there's an abundance of other ways to cut and slice and dice video, but these tend to be the like three legs of a stool, right? To really like embolden and embody what a brand is all about in the eyes of their audience.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I always like to have some kind of a framework against which I'm working because it explains, to your point with an explainer, but it explains exactly why and what you're actually doing these videos and what their objectives are, and especially in a complex B2B environment. Now, do you also, when I think of B2B, I also think of multiple stakeholders in the purchase. It's
Exactly.
never just one person. It's always, you have a recommender, you have a champion, you have the influencer, you have other interested parties, and then you kind of have the guy with the money.
Yeah, you got that
And
CFO at the end of the
yeah,
line, right?
yeah, that damn CFO. We could sell so much more if we didn't have him in the way every time.
For better and worse, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. But you have all of that. So how does your trifecta work against those different stakeholders in the decision process?
Yeah, exactly. I love that question. So, of course, we're always going to start with the primary audience, right? Because they're the first one to start building trust with, right? And again, this framework is, if you're honed in on a single ICP's buyer's journey, right? You're making this trifecta to build that trust along the way and that expression of why and what and how and who and where, right? All of that is really important. But then you can flex and create similar like videos for those different ICPs, right? So now you have this brand identity, tone of voice, positioning, messaging, communication, all really aligned and synthesized and galvanized, right? For those different ICPs. And then when when your sales team is talking to these different stakeholders, they can pull from this quiver, this tool set, right? To like show versus tell and lead with emotion where it makes sense, lead with the power of story, right? To really help you build that trust, that sense of belief that you're the right business partner or solution in the minds of these different ICPs.
Yeah. Yeah. So just for the audience, ICP, just explain exactly what you mean by that.
Yeah, ideal customer profile. Sorry. So yeah, like your buyer sort of personas, right? So you have, as you just described, those different stakeholders. So you have the one that's really feeling the pain of this moment and is looking for a solution, but then they need to ladder it up to their superiors or supervisors or whatever, and then ultimately to that CFO who really just cares about ROI at the end of the day. That's maybe a little too brash, but like at the end of the day, right? Like that's the main takeaway. So how do you leverage video, which is the most like powerful and preferred medium by audiences, right, to help with those decision makings?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, and so what are some of the key challenges that your clients face when they're thinking about, not only using the video, but also, how AI can be part of that?
Yeah, great question. So first and foremost, right, like when you think video, it's such kind of a loaded word because it's like it's very challenging to produce. Where I mean, you described it earlier, the complexity of visual and audio and other sound and music and tone of voice. And is it production? Is it motion design? Is it a blend of both? Like, what's the creative direction? What's the story, right? So all these complexities make it incredibly rewarding at the end when you have that sort of deliverable, that tool to help empower your team. But to from the jump, there's a lot to consider, right? So leveraging AI and a partner that knows how to understand it really helps at the earliest stages of like digesting an abundance of information from various stakeholders, right? An abundance of information of competitive sets in the marketplace at large, right? audience needs and desires. So just lots of like initial research that can be really synthesized and with the understanding of like it's going to be this is for a short form video. This is for something that's going to be like 60 seconds, 90 seconds, 120 seconds, right? So how do you distill a lot of that down to be the best and most sort of pulpy needs for what the audience desires, right? It's also really helpful in helping you be a bit more objective as like the creative or the person that's like developing this tool, this video in the first place, where you can kind of leave a lot of your like inside the four walls of the business, like politics or like, what different stakeholder needs and really put yourself in the audience's shoes, right? Like, yes, you're making this on behalf of your business or whatever, but like, really, you're making it on behalf of your audience. So, using all that information to help make sure you're leading and building for the audience's desires, AI can be a really good partner in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you're right. There was a couple of things that I really appreciate in there, and that is one of them is kind of being the independent, not arbiter, but being an independent kind of a way to look at the business and what the client is seeing as opposed to, what the business baby, wanting to tell. That was always a challenge, especially when you have like high tech kind of products that's the engineers are saying, well, it does this, it does this, it does this. And yet, the client, when you think about, well, put yourself in the client's eyes, it's all about, well, what problem do you solve? How can I get benefit out of this? And is it really worth the money and the risk? That's the other thing, especially on a big purchase. There's a lot of risk that, first of all, it could fail. Second of all, if it does fail, I'm gonna, my job or my career will be impacted. And so I've got to, get past that. And I think AI, in conjunction with how you're talking about using video, can really smooth that and improve that whole process.
Exactly. It sort of objectifies a lot of the details, the data, the sort of desires into like plain speak, right? So you can understand how to approach the story of whatever nature in the buyer's journey you're trying to strike over, right? So that's like the best sort of jump off point. From there, and you mentioned this earlier, the sort of like script development of things, right? Like we're creators, like, we love story, we love starting with the script, right? And so we take caution in how much like of the GPT like sort of carries that onus, that responsibility, right? But it is helpful in sort of like comparing, contrasting creative directions or like approaches to the story, right? So like obviously most stories have like a very singular attachment to an emotion that you want the audience to feel, but it's like how you arrive at that emotion. Is it That's where creative development really thrives, right? So having another sort of team player in the GPT to help you compare, contrast different directions and storytelling sort of techniques is really impactful too. And I don't think it's for the fact of like being any faster or like cheaper by any way. It's more just like you have another writer in the room, sort of in the writer's room, right? To like help you arrive at the best direction that's best for the audience at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's what and I'm not trying to denigrate, human creativity. It's clearly a million miles better than AI. But what AI does is if I say, give me 10 ideas to promote or, give me a theme for this particular problem that we're trying to, portray in our video. Those 10 ideas are such a good jumping off point.
Correct.
And when you have really good creative folks then in the room, and then you have the business side that really understands the business challenges and then also the marketing challenges, all of that kind of comes together and it's AI that kind of really, makes that process just a lot smoother, I think.
Yeah, to be even more specific, it's like you can have your interviews with the stakeholders, right? Like with customers, with your sales team, with your marketing team, with your C-suite. You can record using the AI recorders, right? To like absorb all of the actual words that are being spoken to. Then you can take things like the brand guidebooks and like the tone of voice and those elements. You can take your social channels and all the places that you already are like present in the marketplace, right? And like push all of that through and then the prompting of like the goals and the results. Yeah, it's really powerful because it's just so much research is like compressed into there that then that the creativity can take over at that point. So that distillation of the information combined with like your own prowess of the audience's wants, needs, desires, and then push out the direction that's best to proceed from there, right? And then the fun begins with actually producing it. So
Yeah, 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 absolutely. So, have you run into any pushback or any of your prospects or clients pushing back on using AI, or they're regulated and they can't use it, or have you run into anything like that?
yeah, actually quite a bit of it. But even even in the storytelling front where like these big health tech companies or medical
Mm,
device companies or a lot of manufacturing and things like that, right? Like they are all adopting some semblance of AI too, but it's always a question mark of like how forward do we really desire to be with that message, right? Like is that really going to resonate and does the audience, does the buyer like really care, you know? So it's a lot of those sort of decisions and then for us as the creatives too, it's like I know that most of our brand partners know that we're leveraging some semblance of it in the stage that we're talking about here, the like in the call recordings and things of that nature. But as far as like I think where you're going of like pictures and imagery and video and music and voiceover, we've haven't made like a hard and fast stance, but we tend to just not go in that direction. The couple times we have been sort of in like a mood board development or kind of just like this is the intention of where we are expecting to go. But I know that when we're talking about things like building trust and a sense of belief, right? Like the more distinct and unique and differentiated we can be from a brand's like visual identity is always a winner. And anytime we can infuse humanity, right? Like we're
mm,
already in video, we're already in the medium that's preferred, right, by audiences. This is your opportunity to be like very authentic and unique and use live action video to be specific like as much as possible, right? Especially in like, customer stories, right? Like you got to
mm.
make these customers the hero, so there's not really any need or desire there. In the explainers, it's like, yeah, we're being tactical in the sort of what you do and how you do it, but it's in that tone of voice that is, the edutainment, so to speak, that like you can really be different. And so then applying, motion design and that's uniquely in of your brand identity is huge. Live action to show whatever it is, the hardware, software, UI, like it existing in the real world has tremendous benefits. So I think when these key assets really helpful. That said, like once these elements are created, right, there's like so much opportunity to diversify the types of assets, right? So like when I was saying that our sort of like premier deliverable or asset is like that 60-second, 90-second, 2 minute sort of like, short but long form piece. There's so many opportunities to make 15-second pieces, animated GIFs,
Mm.
take the transcript and write case studies, right? So sort of leveraging the goal and diversifying the content from there using AI tools to like be efficient, I think is a really smart move.
Yeah, yeah, no, that does make sense, and and I think that's kind of like, everybody has a limited budget. Nobody has the unlimited budgets, so to speak, and but being able to then not only do this great creative, but then also to kind of proliferate that in the different formats and the different, the 1 minutes versus the 15 seconds versus the this versus the that. AI can, I think be an incredible value to be able to do that and then and make it really work.
That's the best word. Yeah, exactly. It's like that ripple effect of like
Yeah.
the impression you're trying to make with the creative that is uniquely yours, right? Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because you think about now, obviously, there's still some people that are holding back on using AI, but there are so many people using AI to generate video and imagery and sound as well. And it's kind of fascinating. There's going to be so much video out there. You wonder how you're going to be able to stay above the fray, so to speak, because everybody's going to have, instead of having one or two videos, we're going to have 10 or 20. And and then everybody's going to have 10 or 20, and then all of a sudden, you go from 1 million videos to a billion videos, and being able to be seen and understood is I think it's going to be kind of fascinating to see how that evolves.
I wrote this just this week, so that's why I had to pull it up, but it's like we're not short on content. we're short on connection, right? Where there's like it's more posts, more content, more campaigns. It's loud out there, right? So
Yeah.
like, and the volume is off the charts, right? So like, how do we make sure we hear the signal, or that our audience is hearing our signal, right? So it's in that story, that purpose, that feeling that someone sees me in this, right? So like taking care in your key assets, your key marketing and sales materials is like mission critical, right? And then you can beat your own drum from there at sort of the volume or pace or cadence that you need to.
So and you know what's interesting then, and I don't know if you've seen this, but what's really critical. So you know, even though let's say you have instead of one video, you have 10, and you have to stay above the noise. What is then really critical is getting that hook to get them to view the first one.
Yep.
And that, you know, whatever the medium is, whether it's email or TV advertising or whatever it happens to be, is how do you, you know, that hook now has to be also, you know, seen amongst the noise. So it's the signal in the noise ratio, and somehow you got to get that hook to really stand out.
Yeah, you have to like stop the scroll, right?
The
So
death, the
it's
doom scroll.
exactly. So it's really important to like, I don't know if it's necessarily like A/B test everything, but just like you got to do that compare
Yeah,
contrast and
yeah,
know what you always got to be, you got to lead with what you're just like audience first, right? Like what do they need? And
yeah,
so
yeah.
helping them is usually the best first step and arriving at that best hook, right? And iterating from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what are some of the Gen AI tools that you're seeing that are pretty interesting and valuable, and what do you guys use?
Yeah, I mean we're on the, the ChatGPT is a pro plan or whatever, right? So that's usually the jump off point. And for us though, like because we use the Adobe suite, there's so much built into that like Creative Cloud set of tools. So for example, like Premiere Pro is our linear editing tool, right? It's like the ability to take long form interviews, get the transcript immediately inside the window is like an incredible change. Whereas before, like I remember coming up, it was like typing out like word for word transcriptions, right? So being able to use that and then you can edit within that window, right? So like I want to keep this, I want to delete this, and you see the like ripple effect of your sort of like visual timeline to just to take down a whatever 20-minute interview to a couple minutes. It's like you're already off to the races on like the pacing of that, like what's the other visuals we're going to add. The other thing we leverage it a lot for is closed captioning, right? So just like instead of, just uploading an SRT file to YouTube and YouTube puts it sort of very basic black and white, it's like, well, we can have one that's on brand and in their sort of colors and font and all of that
Mm.
stuff and have it pre-built. So those types of things are really helpful. There's a lot of like placeholder stuff we'll use too, like visual or audio or otherwise. It's just is like helps us get a sense of where we're trying to go creatively. That's really helpful. So, yeah, a lot of using the like what's become native in the tools that we're already using to help efficiencies and process improvement has been awesome for us.
So, do you see that as are your clients like then saying, well, you know, you're now so much more efficient, you know, you should give us you do this for less money, or is it that you're now generating more valuable content? Instead of one video, you're generating all of the variants that are necessary to be generated.
Yeah,
How do you see that working out?
definitely the latter, where most of our conversations begin with that sort of framework, right? Like, what's the sort of best tool, premier tool, that part of the trifecta, right, that supports your audience's needs in this moment, their journey. But then from there, invariably, it becomes like a mini campaign, right? Where it's like, great, now we can give you 15-second versions, 30-second versions, animated GIFs, transcripts, case studies, imagery, right? All pulled and high resolution coming out of what we've made, right? So other tools, AI tools like upresing, right? Meaning like upping the resolution. So there's a lot of times where we'll receive photos, for example, were taken digitally a bunch of years ago, and it's just like they're not big enough, frankly, for the HD or
Mm.
4K or even 8K world we're living in now. So being able to like up the resolution to match the sort of vibe of what we're going for in any given piece is a really big help too.
Yeah, yeah, interesting. Well, fantastic. I'd love to be able to go on a lot further, but I'm going to have to, we're going to have to break it here. I think I could talk with you for hours on different things. It's B2B, as I mentioned, I think B2B is so hard. It's so difficult, the time frames, the decision makers and everything, and then being able to do, efficient and effective marketing in that is really tough. Let me ask you with a one last question, and that is, what advice would you give an up and coming new marketer as they're trying to break into marketing and they don't really have a portfolio, so to speak, to work with?
I'd say get your hands dirty, meaning like put a camera and a microphone in front of yourself, right? Like the more you can understand the nuances of how video is created and produced, everything from what is the idea, what is the story, the direction, the purpose of this thing, right? And then doing it yourself, like the performance, the posture, the cadence, like how you speak that informs like your script writing ultimately, right? And then understanding things like lighting and sound and camera framing, like all that has like huge benefit in the long run when then you start working with other either actual creatives or other creatives, right? And partners that work in production and suddenly you're speaking like a like language in your goals, right? And then you along the way you're building confidence in your own sort of marketing, but then you're creating content that can support the business's goals and needs too.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Well, and it actually, to what you're talking about, even doing it for yourself. In the end, I think one of the hardest things to do is to sell yourself. And, so when you're doing a job interview or whatever, or getting ready with your resume and then your portfolio, it's, that mind shift that you have to go through. It's now I'm selling myself and, and, I don't know, maybe, I know all of my warts. I don't want to, how do I cover those all up?
You're absolutely right. It's sort of a soft skill that will just like benefit you in so many ways in the long run. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Tim, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for being on. And so tell us how can the audience reach out to you and certainly learn more about your company, Pennant Video?
Yeah, thanks for that. Yep. So I'm on LinkedIn early and often, so you can definitely find me there. And then our website is pennant.video or pennantvideo.com. We have a really cool sort of playbook. It's called Funnel Focused, and it's this playbook to help support marketers in their like decision making in creating video for their buyers, right? Their buyer's journey. So it's ungated. Maybe I can give you the link to it here and you could drop it in the show
Yeah,
notes. But
yeah.
people are welcome to leverage that too. There's a fun sort of like quiz to help them understand the gaps in their video marketing plan. And yeah, I hope it's helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be wonderful. So, yeah, thank you, Tim. So great to have you. So, pennant.video or pennantvideo.com. And of course, Tim is on LinkedIn. So, for the audience, please stay tuned for many other videos in this series of the backstory on marketing and AI. And please go to marketingmachine.prorelevant.com and download some interesting information on my up and coming new book, The AI Marketing Machine. Tim, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.